Okay, good evening. Welcome to our city council meetings this evening. We apologize for the late start. Our previous meeting went a little bit over. We're going to jump right in, try to fly through this. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance by Anthony Whittison.
And repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Anthony. Quick note, Councilmember Henderson is joining us online, so he is here and available. We'll go to item 5.2, City Council comments and recognitions. Anything from the council tonight?
I just want to give a shout out to Trent, our tree man. He did an awesome presentation on Saturday, I heard, and then I've had the opportunity to go to one school for his Arbor Day presentation, and teaching third graders and corralling those guys for 20, 30 minutes is quite an act. Him and Anthony did a good job on Monday, and they've got a couple more this week and next week for Arbor Day and Earth Day stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I will mention that when we talked about it tonight, but we were all in St. George this past week as a city, and Herriman City was awarded. They're asking us to take another picture because it was only me and Teddy and Michael in the picture down there, so they want a better picture. So we were awarded that it was our 3-year renewal of the Healthy Utah Community. So Herriman City, once again, was awarded a Healthy Utah Community because of a lot of things we've got going on. So just wanted to mention that. When are we going to do the picture? Can we do it after? Yeah. Can we do it after? Okay. That we don't have to, move along faster. Okay. So we appreciate our thoughts. I mean, thank you to those that involved with that, ULCT and Get Healthy Utah, for that recognition. So we appreciate it. Any other comments, recognitions? Okay. At this point, we'll turn to public comment. Audience members may bring any item within the city's purview to the city council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@herriman.org or by visiting herriman.org/agendas and minutes, where there is a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So I don't have any forms so far, but there's anybody who would like to speak tonight? Okay. Seeing no comments, we'll move on to item 7. Due to city council reports, we'll start with Jared. Jared, do you have anything?
Just a brief update on the progress of UFA budget season. You think ours is bad? On the 7th, we're going to spend, I think they told me to plan on 4 hours or so for all the department presentations. Finance committee, we've been looking over the budget's been proposed by the chief and his team, which I'd say they've done a really good job. Board members pushed back at the original increase numbers. They whittled it down to, I think I told you last time, about 5.5%. So all those departments have had to go and trim some things for the first time ever, and I'll finalize these numbers, but for the first time ever, Herriman has the lowest increase versus the other cities around us. So I feel some pretty good news on that front, but I'll get you more details as we finalize the budget this next month.
Perfect. Thank you, Jared. Teddy.
We got a couple things. So let's go on the UFA topic. A couple of us got to go to UFA Fire School 2 Fridays ago. It was an enjoyable experience. If you guys get to go, you should take that time. Obviously, they've cut a little bit budgets because we didn't get all the swag they've gotten before, but it was a fun experience to run up the 6 flights of stairs with hoses on your back and stuff, and in awesome shoes that make your feet feel wonderful. With the turnouts and everything. But it was a very enjoyable experience and a lot of information. definitely. Definitely don't take those guys for granted from working a fire situation, or even just 90% of their calls are medics, but yeah, they do a lot of work. We had the opportunity to go to St. George. I'm sure all four of us were there, plus a lot of city staff was there, so it was great to get lots of knowledge from there. Lots of networking and connections were made. I had a sewer board meeting last week as well. It was a quick one, just some payables, but we are getting, from the connections I made at Fire School 101, hazmat crews are going to come out and tour the facility again. It's been 10 or plus years since they've been out there, so the crews have changed. So knowledge of that facility is huge for us, especially with the chemicals we have for that department. And then the last couple of days, we've had the opportunity to go to the high school and teach some senior government classes and about municipality government, and that's been kind of fun. So that's my updates.
Sherry?
It's from the Waterfront Waste and Recycling. Just one note was we just went over our quarterly financials, and our maintenance last quarter was up 13%, so massively higher. And we were concerned that it was because we had to keep our trucks for so much longer because we've gone years without being able to obtain another garbage truck, but it really wasn't. It's simply the cost of parts and supplies and labor. So inflation hits every aspect of our lives.
Unfortunately, it does. Okay. It's crazy. Steve?
Nothing.
Okay. Got a note here to mention that we had a very successful spring cleanup, and there will be some data coming in upcoming meetings about how that went. So thank you to staff that put in extra hours and extra weird hours and days. So
We have a lot of trash.
have a lot of trash.
There was a lot of stuff,
Really?
Yeah.
right? On Saturday alone, there was 1,100 people that came through. More than 1,100?
Are you kidding me?
That was Saturday alone.
You could see the mountain of just branches over there. I was like, oh my.
A lot of tumbleweeds? Probably tumbleweeds.
Mostly, I think, trees and stuff.
Okay.
But we'll give you some statistics on it.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you to everybody involved with that. That's quite the, wow. That's insane. Okay. Move on. I don't have anything tonight either. I always worry about going to this agenda item now.
That's how it works.
We'll
I'd
go
be
to
glad
item
to.
9, the consent agenda. Look for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion by Sherry,
Second.
second by Teddy. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry? Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that motion carries. Item 10.1, discussion and consideration of an agreement to defer payment of building permit fees. Blake?
I don't have a presentation for this one. This is an item that we spoke about several weeks ago. It's for Slackwater, the new pizza restaurant in Anthem. When they were starting their project, they had a construction cost estimate, and as they started into it, it was right when inflation took off. Their site had some unfavorable conditions with some soil, and so their costs went through the roof, so to say. So early on, they contacted the staff and asked for some type of incentive if there was anything we could offer. We came to council about a month or two ago and discussed the opportunity or the options that were in front of us. They were requesting a waiver of fees. Council directed staff that wouldn't be something that would be an interest in doing, but that there was an interest in deferring the fees for up to a year. So we went back, we prepared a draft agreement. It was in your packet with the staff report. The draft agreement allows the fees to be deferred until April 10th, 2025, and it allows the developer to pay the fees in installments over time, or they can just pay it all at once at the end. It kind of leaves it up to them as long as they're paid in full by that time. So the agreement has been included in your packet, and I can answer any questions you have, and the staff does recommend approval for this item.
Any discussion? Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve Slackwater Pizza Building Permit Fee Agreement.
A second.
Motion by Sherry, second by Steve. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Thank you, Blake. Item 10.2, discussion and consideration of a reimbursement agreement with Edge Homes for the construction of Herriman Boulevard improvements. Blake?
I do have a presentation for this one. So the location of this project that's part of this discussion is along Creek Ridge. It's Herriman Boulevard, from about 6,000 west, well, this last piece is from about 6,400 west to 6,800 west. Per the master development agreement, this is an exhibit from the agreement that shows the Creek Ridge development. It required the city to pay for certain improvements to roadways. And the items for this section of roadway that the city is required to pay for are listed here. And I have an asterisk next to the sewer item because I'll get to that in a minute, but keep that one in mind. And then for phase 3, which is this last section of Herriman Boulevard, it's required that we pay or have it constructed, either one, within 10 months of the issuance of the 450th permit, and the 450th building permit was issued earlier this year. So this map shows the phases that have been completed, or, well, all the road here has been completed, it's highlighted. Phase 1 was a project that the city designed and constructed, and that one was completed a few years ago, about 3,500 feet of road. Phase 2 was built by Edge Homes, and we have an existing development agreement with them, and we're currently paying on that item. And then Phase 3, the far west end, is the one that the agreement that was attached to your staff report is for. And this one, we wanted to point out that there's $1 million of this funding came from UDOT. It's called pass-through funds. It was part of a House bill from 2019. And so that money's just been sitting, waiting for this reimbursement this agreement to be completed, and we'll be able to pay that portion out. And then a portion of the improvements are reimbursable from the sewer district with their impact fees because it's a system improvement for the sewer district. And we're currently coordinating with the sewer district because there's an upsize cost that would be paid for, not all of it, but a portion, or most of it would be reimbursable. So the agreements for phase 3, the invoices have been submitted, they've been reviewed by engineering, they're included in the costs were included in the exhibits to the agreement, and then the plans were in there as well. And this is currently in the budget to be reimbursed, so once this one is approved, the payment would be made, and this agreement would be opened and then closed shortly thereafter. So staff's recommending approval for this, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any on this.
Any questions or discussions? Please, let's talk about this more. I don't want to go into 10.3.
Look, it just needs to be done, right? It's, we've got the money, the agreement's in place, the road's getting done. Let's move on, get it done, move on, yeah.
Okay, look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the reimbursement agreement with Edge Homes for the construction of the Herriman Boulevard improvements and Creek Ridge Master Plan projects.
Motion by Teddy, second by Sherry. Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Item 10.3, follow-up on chamber membership. Nathan?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, this was requested to come back. I think I said in the last work meeting, I was planning on this in a work meeting because I've been really focused on the budget, and I was thinking more the budget side. But as I thought about that in our new policy, really the decision is where you want to go. There are some budgetary impacts if you make some changes, and so those are included in here. But we're at a point in our budget, if you make some changes, we can include that. The one thing I would say is and I know as council thinks about it, is that these things don't come in a vacuum, so that's what I try to spell out. There are other budgetary impacts that may happen if we do this. So staff's position at this point is just tell us what you want us to do. How much do you want us to budget for this item? So happy to answer questions. I've included the packets as the information that we had. That's really a council decision.
Okay, I'd look for some feedback from council. I was not here for the work meeting. I did watch it, had a lot of conversations with our good friends at Mountain West. So just looking for some conversation ideas thoughts from council.
So talk about the impact, Nathan, there on that line. Is it new 16,000 monies per year, or is it in conjunction with what's already budgeted?
So currently, we have been budgeting about $4,000 for chamber memberships.
Okay.
So if you went to a more expensive, we would have to find funds. So we do identify a source of funding potentially, but it's moving funds from another thing you're currently doing there. So yes, there's an impact, but it's not guaranteed in there. That's just, we've been paying one membership for a while, and that's what it is. That's how it was budgeted.
So we spend currently almost 16,000 with that EDC money, but then the next line, it would be additional 16 on top of that.
If you chose to continue, so the proposal is that you would not send as much to EDC Utah.
Okay.
So a lot of the things they represent, the projects they bring, they just physically will not fit in Herriman. We don't have the land for it, we don't have the zoning appropriate. You know, if we had a multiple 100-acre business park, it might make sense, some of their projects, but most of them don't. So talking with some other cities, they choose to only send them a certain amount and not the whole lot. So it is a political decision if you do that. If you chose to keep EDC, the direction would be we have to find an additional $12,000.
And not to advocate one way or another, but I think the 8,000 first year, 10,000 second, 12,000 third year.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the exact numbers when I was putting.
Again, I'm not trying to advocate one or another, but that's the impact to the budget. But then I think it does go up as high as 16 down in 4 years.
I've yet to see really anything solid that tells me why we'd want to spend more money.
All right, so this is a tough subject because I love where we're at and with what the chamber does currently and the events. Super local, super authentic to what our businesses need. After going the last 2 weeks and thinking about it and where the city wants to be in the caliber, in the hospitality, in the 10-year plan, looking forward to the Olympics. My personal view now is I don't think we're on the right bus to get the exposure we need or want for our city looking at 10 years down the road of where our business, hospitality, our auto dealerships, our events complexes, bringing that kind of vision. And I think that's what sparked this whole conversation, was seeing how they advertise those cities that are part of that. And we're going to be a small fish in a big pond for a minute, but we're going to be the fourth largest city in the county here, not in 10 years, 15 years. And so being on that bus early, maybe we're sitting on the front and not in the back with the cool kids yet, but I think it's on the right bus. And that's kind of where I'm proposing on that.
I asked that question when we were in the work meeting, and you know which company responded to me and answered my questions?
Yeah.
The one we're with.
I know.
The other company didn't reach out or answer anything. So the response we get back from the company we're with right now is more meaningful to me, just simply because we're not saying businesses in our community can't be members of any chamber. It's just whether or not we want to utilize them for some of our own stuff. So I guess that's my
Or
2
be
cents.
part of both.
Yeah, but I just want to.
It's not stewardship, and I don't know if we've got the funds with the budget constraints we have. Yeah.
Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Steve, what are your thoughts?
So, just a couple things. Number one is, nothing about my decision has to do with the quality of service that our businesses have gotten. I think our current membership with Mountain West has been awesome. Like, I think they do a great job in our city. The ribbon cuttings are great. The promotion for businesses they do, I think is awesome. I think Teddy's analogy, I took it a little bit further. When my wife and I first got married, she had purchased this little black Mazda 3 that she absolutely loved. It was super nice, like driving a go-kart. Love this car. Shortly after we got married, I retained primary physical custody of my 3 children. And suddenly the Mazda 3 was no longer a viable source of transportation. And as much as we loved that car, as much as she had personally invested in loving that car, we just had to get something bigger. We needed something to be able to transport our bigger crew to get around what we needed. And I think sometimes it's just a function of, the bus or the car, whatever. Is it the appropriate size for what it is you need to accomplish and where you're trying to go? In this case, I do think that the South Valley Chamber being substantially larger, more exposure, I think there's more opportunity there for our city to accomplish big goals, big ideas, things that we want to accomplish in the long term. However, I do think there is value in what Mountain West Chamber is doing for our community. I don't think that there is value in any of the money that we're giving to EDC Utah right now. Right now, we've spent $15,761 on both of those, with $4,000 going to Mountain West and $11,000 to EDC Utah. My recommendation is that we do both of them simultaneously for now and not give money to EDC Utah and evaluate the service that we get from those organizations over maybe the next year or two. See if we notice any economic differences, impact in our city, and get some empirical firsthand data about it so that we can determine whether we at a future point want to completely jump, But that's the only thing I can think of right now. I don't want to send any money to EDC Utah, frankly. I would much rather spend it on the chambers that are representing our
Programs that can help us, yeah.
EDC isn't going to help us with anything.
I went on a field trip with them one time when they were out here, out by Bullfrog and stuff, and this is not to throw them under the bus, but they did a lot of finger pointing back at our staff to say they didn't get all this, but they actually did have all the information they needed. They just
They had never looked at it, yeah.
We just never hit their radar. They just didn't.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about sending them cash, and the only thing we get for the cash, I guess, is we get to use a booth at the ICSC. It's probably not. Yeah, there we go. So we don't even get that. So yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of return on that investment.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what my thoughts are at this point, so.
I'm not opposed to that. So as far as budget-wise, would we be neutral, or did you?
We would save $3,761.
Yeah, so we have a savings if we went.
No, 4 and 8, so 12.
Well,
yeah.
but
Oh, that's true, yes, so yeah,
15,
15,
15.
yeah.
Then you would be neutral through the 2 years. I mean, there's a slight savings, but yeah.
Yeah.
so I'm okay with.
Do a 2-year plan.
Does that set up a competition between the two of them, really? Or?
No, the decision isn't whether or not how they serve our businesses necessarily. It's the service to the city, right? This is the city's membership in the chambers, not necessarily our businesses' membership in the chambers. And I think that, our businesses should continue to participate with the chamber that they feel best represents them and that gives them the resources and the assistance that they want. But as a city, I do think we need to understand what the larger organization provides and how we would fit in and what they're doing. And if over that time we're not getting any responses and things aren't happening and we're not noticing any difference in the economic and development impact and anything like that, I think we'll have at least enough it won't be anecdotal anymore. It'll be firsthand experience about the impacts we're seeing, so.
I do love the ribbon cuttings and I mean, I try to get to everyone I can. And then the Night of Heroes and our teacher appreciation, that lunch is coming up real soon. And those three events are 100%. And we're not going to get that from, I can't say we're not going to get that, but we won't get that localized. You know, it won't be Herriman PD and Herriman Fire Police and people that are getting awarded or staff members. It's going to be more of a global South Valley. And, you know, we can't compete with the Ken Garfs and Larry Millers and stuff like that, but maybe one day.
Well, I appreciate this idea because
Yeah.
because I don't want to walk away from that portion of it, because I think we get focused on being the big city and we lose track of our local people and our local businesses. So I like that idea. That would give us both.
And maybe that's a coward way out.
I was going to say you took the easy way, but
But I really did think about it from the standpoint of, I think there are different benefits from each organization. And I'm not necessarily saying, I don't have enough firsthand information to make a determination of which is exactly the right fit. My suspicion, if I'm being honest, I'm thinking that the larger organization will be more aligned with some of our bigger goals, but that has yet to be proven out. It's just been a sales presentation so far, right?
So you could have kept the Mazda 3 and the other car.
Yeah, no, we couldn't afford it. This one at least fits in our budget, yeah.
yeah.
Jared, do you have thoughts?
I've been wanting to do this for 4 years. That was my suggestion 4 years ago, was why can't we do both? Right? And the numbers fit, especially for the first couple of years. So I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Steven said. I'll give you, I know you guys love my analogies too, but the one that I love with these is in regards to South Valley and what's going on a larger level. I mean, for the city, these are more, at that level, they're more like lobbying organizations. And if you're not at that table, you're probably on the menu. I'd much rather be at the table. So I'm 100% for that solution.
Do you need any
This is a
motion or
discussion
anything?
motion,
Just a
and
discussion.
what are we doing?
I just need some direction, so a motion if you just to do
Just
what we've said.
and just for information, I'm messaging with Susan to make sure that that works for them, because I know that can get, even talking to Sandra leading up to that, because that was initial a thought, and then there was some confusion, whether it be confusing as to who did a ribbon cutting or who did.
2 scissors.
If you guys would go with, like, I've stressed over this.
3 scissors.
You guys know I've stressed over this and lost sleep over, like, more this than any other
because
decision.
it's
Because you guys are
personal.
friends,
Yeah,
like, you guys are
yeah.
such good, anyways.
But I guess that's part of the reason why I don't want to cut the tie with
I-
that, is because they are invested in the community.
Well, yes, and I will say, what the comparison I made, I'll use a soccer reference, right? It was, Jared works for this club called Utah Avalanche, right, in the soccer world, and they want to be top tier, right? They want to have all the best players, the big clubs that travel all over the country, and seems to be in the soccer community, everybody wants to be that level, right? But you have a pyramid in the development scheme of the athletes, and the bigger chunk of the athletes are down here. And it's the clubs that are serving those athletes those clubs that are serving them well are good for those kids, and it's perfect for that. And I'm not saying one's better than, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think there's 2 different goals in these 2
They're different
chambers.
scopes, right? I mean,
Yep, there's 2 different
they're-
scopes.
Oh, no, don't, let's be clear. Utah Avalanche is the best.
One takes all your money, one leaves you with a little bit of money. So, honestly, if this is the vote, I'm elated. I'm going to walk out of here a happy man, because I did not see the vote going this way tonight. So, yes, somebody
You want a
give me
motion?
some direction or motion to do both and nothing to the other.
I would just make a motion that we allocate what we're currently spending on our membership with the Mountain West Chamber and EDC Utah, and instead allocate that to membership in the South Valley Chamber and Mountain West Chamber, and accept the savings,
Nice.
and not give that money to EDC Utah.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Is that okay like that, Jackie?
Yeah.
You guys good? Head nods like that?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye from the Congress. And truly, and I mean, for everybody that's listening, I know South Valley's probably online too. Mount Wet, thank you. I mean, you guys know we love you guys.
Thank you for being
This was hard, and we know this was hard to go through. Thank you for your efforts. You know, Gabe, I know you've spent a lot of time meeting outside of this, and, you know, all of you just, we love your events, and I was scared to death to lose some of those, but I think this is a good win-win for everybody. And I think I like data, because like you said, I think it does give us some data looking forward, and
Yeah, I hate making decisions based on a sales presentation.
pamphlet?
Right, yeah.
Like voting.
I'd much rather,
Pamphlet.
I think we need this opportunity and see how it works out, right?
Agree.
okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming. She's going to hold up her newspaper, so she told me she's going to bring a newspaper today. So, again, thank you to everybody involved. Thank you, Jay, for your work if you're listening to, and what your chamber does as well. So, look forward to see how this works. So, we appreciate it, you guys. Thank you. Okay, item 10.4,
You
discussion.
don't have to stay for all the rest of the,
Yeah, we won't be
terrible
offended if you
conversations.
leave now.
we won't be offended.
We know you want to.
But if anybody wants to bring me, they're telling me we're going to be 11 o'clock, so if anybody wants to bring me a fizz. Okay.
Are you promoting it?
10.4, they're just the closest.
No, that's
10.4, the FHIZ.
Yeah.
Kind of twisted sugar.
Discussion and consideration of a 2024 Arbor Day proclamation.
You like that?
Do we need any more discussion, or
I don't know if you do or
do we need
not.
more discussion?
We
Or can we
returned
do
it per your request.
can we do a motion on this?
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion? I know the policy's coming back on the 8th, so I'll look for a motion on this
Yeah, I
one.
think they're,
Okay. Okay.
Awesome, just killer friend. Motion to approve the 2024 Arbor Day proclamation.
Motion by Teddy,
I'll second.
second by Steve. Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve? And I'll vote yes, that motion carries.
Yeah.
10.5, discussion and consideration of a recommendation to amend Title 10 of the Land Development Code of Herriman City Code to regulate the location and operation of heliports and helicopters or other personal air mobility vehicles in Herriman. Michael?
Good evening, council, and I know this is an item that you are very familiar with, but just for the benefit of the general public, I'll just go through a very quick presentation tonight. This, again, is an item that has been recommended to you by the Planning Commission as an amendment to our zoning code. As you can see, our Jetsons here are very apt messengers for air mobility. Interestingly enough, there is an actual Jetson company who is producing these air, mobility aircrafts today. So we know we're seeing these kinds of things on the fringe or on the edge of our society. And there are always early adopters, right? This was an incident that happened up in Summit County relative to individuals flying in for recreation for the Sundance Film Festival at a time when Summit County didn't have regulations for helicopters. So we're not alone in experiencing kind of that incident of where somebody's trying to maybe be an early adopter in our community. But there's good reasons to be concerned, even though we see that that's the pressure, the future, who knows what's going to happen. But there are incidents, there are accidents, and we do want to make sure that we're being careful and reasonable in establishing appropriate standards for our community. And of course, we are grateful, for things like Life Flight, and we even have, potentially we may see a regular service here in our community from a medical provider, not just for emergency situations, but an actual helipad in our community to support these emergent vehicles. And we've also been an early adopter when it comes to the delivery of packages using air mobility and drone equipment that is being operated out of Walmart. We worked through that issue and found ways to work with them. But as the council knows, several months ago, we did have an issue in our community, and we're responding. We did respond at the time with an emergency meeting with the city council. The council adopted a temporary regulation. And then we went through the process of analyzing the draft or the proposed standards from the city attorney's office as an amendment to Title 10, our zoning code. So the Planning Commission reviewed that amendment, that proposed amendment. There were a few additional changes that were made to the draft, to the proposed ordinance since you adopted it as a temporary regulation, very minor. And the Planning Commission also had made a couple of recommendations. So specifically, they did recommend approval, 6-0 at the April 11th meeting following a public hearing. They did want to clarify that the ordinance does not apply to drones, and so that has been added, this 1025 section 3 in the definition, we're saying specifically it excludes drones. And then there was a request from our Planning Commission to acknowledge that there may be events in our community where we would actually like to have helicopters land, as a temporary thing. And our Parks Department, Wendy, our Assistant City Manager, said we have had this happen on a number of occasions where we've accommodated that. So there was a provision added, 1025-2, just saying that city-sponsored events, that this is an exemption for those events. Originally, I had included in response to Planning Commission 1025-7, which is referring these to a temporary permit, but we just simplified that. And so you actually see that in the draft ordinance before you tonight. Both of those kind of addressing community events is included, but I just checked with our city attorney, Todd Sheeran, and you can actually remove that very last section or that last paragraph from your draft ordinance. If you were to make a motion on this tonight, we're recommending that you restrike 1025-7, as it just kind of is a duplicate of the prior clarification in 1025-2. So with that, again, the recommendation from Planning Commission is approval.
Okay.
Mayor, may I add
Yes,
just
please.
a
Yep.
couple things? Thank you, Michael, for doing that. He and Matt and I worked on this ordinance together and prepared what we presented to you. I just want you to think about the purpose of this ordinance as far as the zoning aspect and you making a proposed amendment to our zoning code. There's a couple reasons why helicopters are may potentially cause problems within the city. First is the noise and vibration of helicopters, especially if they're landing in denser areas next to buildings. That noise and vibration can cause concern either from people around there, people on the ground, people within the building, and it ultimately could have potentially affect their use and enjoyment of their property. Second, there's significant wind with in particular helicopters, where that wind can cause debris, dust, objects moving around. I was reading an article, I think it was published by the FAA. No, it was just a different company, where they talked about hovering a helicopter above ground can be potentially lethal depending on what debris is around, and not that in every circumstance are people getting injured if they're around a helicopter when it's hovering or landing or taking off, but I think it's just cause for concern. So I just wanted you to consider those additional contemplations as a zoning issue.
Okay. Any other discussion, or I'll look for a motion, I guess.
Did we vet the conditional use standard, like the conditional use areas, to make sure that we don't have to come back and change this ordinance or code in the near future? They all look pretty good, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me add to that. I don't think that we have we have the conditional use standards in there, but it's not a permitted or conditional
Right.
use in any of the use table.
Right.
So effectively, if the council does decide at some point that they want a certain zone to comply with where a helicopter can land, that sort of thing, then they can just add a simple C to the use table on what zone they think that's appropriate.
Okay.
This is the best place to start.
Yep, I love it. Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2024-08, amending Title 10 of Herriman City Code to regulate the location and operation of heliports, helicopters, and other personal air mobility vehicles, excluding Section 1025-7 in our
Draft
packets. Yeah.
In the draft ordinance. Okay, second. Motion by Ted, or Steve, second by Teddy. Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Todd, both of you for your work on that. 10.6, notice of pending ordinance regarding preliminary subdivision plats and street connectivity. Todd?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just pull up my notes. So recently, we had a developer have an issue with certain language in our code. In our code, it states that streets, any proposed street on a plat needs to connect to an existing public street. This caused just a timing issue because, in particular, this applicant was at the preliminary plat phase as opposed to the final plat phase. And we talked as staff to try to see what would be appropriate at the preliminary plat phase. And so we came up with some language that we think works well for the city and for developers. And you can see that in your packet. And we amended two sections. One section states, if the preliminary plat does not directly connect to an existing public street, which is what our code says, the applicant must provide the approximate location of the connection points between the preliminary plat and the existing public street. So just kind of a tentative outline of where they anticipate that road being. That the plat, that there's a plan that shows the existing contours and roadway widths. So that way on a staff side, we can see if there's any major concerns as far as the location of it. If the elevation's not gonna work, we can point it out at that time. And lastly, written authorization from the adjoining landowners. So let's say this plat does not directly connect to a public street, that they need to work with the adjoining landowners to connect with it. That we'd need authorization from them saying that they understand that this is going on, that they are aware of the approximate locations, and that eventually the road will be built to city standards. And then we amended another provision in code where it talked about the existing street, and we just clarified that before final plat approval, all the streets will connect to an existing public road. So ultimately, our end goal is still the same. It's just the timing of it. We did make one other change as far as the timing of subdivision plats. Right now, if an applicant comes in, our code says that they have essentially a 2-year vesting period, and then they can have an additional two additional terms that are the same as the original term. So up to 6 years of vesting on a preliminary plat, which is the highest I've ever seen it. The most common is they have a year vesting, and then they can get an additional year vesting upon showing good cause. So we just added that language. I think most developers are aware that that's kind of the norm, so we wanted to clean that up in this pending ordinance.
A good cleanup, because 2 years should be, yeah.
Yep.
Do we have a pending subdivision that we need to do this for, or is it just something we noticed in cleaning up?
Yeah, there's a current application that's trying to get on the planning commission, but we wanted to have this in effect before we submitted it to planning commission.
Okay.
So, on a motion?
What?
On a motion?
Let's do it. We're flying.
Motion to approve resolution R 18-2024, giving notice of pending ordinance to make changes to city code 10-5-15 preliminary plats and 10-28-13 arrangement of streets.
Okay, motion by Sherry,
Second?
second by Teddy. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry? Steve?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That motion carries as well. We flew through that. That was like 40 minutes. And I thought we were going to be an hour and a half, so good job.
You should have the attorney speak more often, that's what I heard.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, future meetings. Next Planning Commission meeting, May 1st. That is next week, holy cow. Next City Council meeting, May 8th. Some events coming up, Hungry Herriman.
Hey, can I talk about Hungry Herriman? I went out Monday night. It was a blast. Perfect weather. I forgot to bring that up, but amazing. Food, all kinds of fun stuff. So come out.
So still just Hungry Herriman food trucks until June. But every Monday night, come back out to the food truck out front here. Health and Safety Palooza, May 4th, on May the 4th. So come on out to that. It's always a fun event put on that's a city/Friends of Herriman
Correct.
event this year. Community fishing classes are ongoing, May 6th, 2024. The Cove Pond RSVP is required.
Yes.
I think that's it. That's all I can think of
I'd
right
just
now.
like to mention that we are landing a helicopter at Health and Safety Palooza, so,
Awesome. Airmed, or, yeah,
Lone Peak.
Lone Peak, nice.
Okay. With that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Or to go back to
work.
close, go back to work, yes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.